Again, I just try to have a conversation.
Okay.
You can look at me and we just talk about who you are. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where were you born? Where were you born and raised?
Born and raised here in Seattle, Washington. Yeah.
Were you raised with mom and dad or with who?
So my life kind of started off a little rocky. So kind of like my parents divorced like before I was born. So they were like, it was very toxic between them. I don't ever remember my parents being together. But I know that my mom, I guess, supposedly fought for us for a long time and was trying to get visits with us. But my dad had custody, but my dad never had us because he was too busy trying to be a rock star or living his life like a rock star and doing the most. So his parents actually had us for a good portion of the beginning of my life.
Gotcha. And when you say us?
Well, me and my two older brothers.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, and then, my dad, whenever he wanted to find time to come get us or whatever, he would. It really wasn't until he got with my stepmom that he tried to play house again and got us, so. But most of the beginning years of my life, I remember being with my grandparents.
Your grandparents. Did you go from your grandparents at one time and live with your dad and your stepmom?
Yeah, for a little bit, but my dad was an alcoholic, like a raging alcoholic, and he was very abusive. And CPS ended up my brothers, they left and went to go be with my mom. But my dad kept me, like, he wasn't gonna I was almost like the favorite child for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, you were the only girl?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have two little girls. There's something about having a girl. But I'm only guessing your dad and your brothers got into it.
Yeah, well, so my brothers don't like me, like, at all. Like,
why is that?
So come to find out, like, later on in life, like, I found out that they treated me like that because they felt like I got beat less than them. So it was like almost like, they were mad.
So let me understand correctly. All three of you got beat.
Yeah.
You just got beat a little less.
Yeah.
And they hold resentment or something towards that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, my brothers are very, I don't know what to call it. They're fucking weird. Like, they just didn't like me. They have found a lot of different reasons on why they didn't like me. None of them even sound right. Like, they didn't like me because of how my life turned out. They didn't like me because I had a baby at a young age. They didn't like me, it's...
Because you got beat less.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fascinating and really doesn't make sense. You're right. Something else has happened in there. Interesting.
It's almost a little... They're too prideful. I feel like they're too prideful to say that they were kind of envious of me because of... People gravitate towards me a lot, which is kind of weird because I've been the black sheep, the outcast in my family. And being the only girl, I thought I would be like the favorite, but even with me being the black sheep and the outcast, like, people are drawn to me, like, really easy, and I'm, like, very outgoing and, like, spunky with them, I guess, so.
Well, I mean, I don't know why that is, but great, it's like you're noticing that.
It's a blessing and a curse, I think.
Well, tell me more about that. Why is that?
Well, I mean, okay, so you probably have never really heard a female say they wish they didn't look pretty, but that's how I've always been. Like, I don't like how I look because of how I'm treated behind it. Like, you know, everybody's always like, oh, you're so pretty, you could have whatever you want, or you could have anybody you want, or you could, you know, do anything you want. Like, you know, like my looks are supposed to bring like this glorious life, and it really hasn't. It actually just brought me a lot of misery.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what society, the world says that, right?
Yeah.
This is what beauty is. And they define it.
Yeah.
And
Like, thinking that just because I'm pretty, like, the world will be given to me, or everybody just want to throw themselves at me or give me whatever just because I'm pretty. But the only thing that everybody wanted to give me was a hard fucking time, or, you know, trying to see what they can get out of me or use me for.
get from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, what you're saying. I guess, tell me about, let's go back a little bit in high school life. What were you doing in high school?
So I never went to high school, really. I dropped out in, like, pretty much the middle school.
Why was that? What happened?
So I was, my mom, like, she likes to say it and tell it from a different point of view, which, whatever, it's her point of view, but I pretty much was put out at 13. And so
what does that mean?
like, I was kicked out of the house. Like, I was locked out.
Oh, gotcha.
Like, you know, so I was out on the streets from 13, and at 13, it's like, you don't have very much options on being able to, like, function.
What did you do? How did you survive at 13 years old?
Start committing crimes. Yeah, I stayed with my, like, a couple of friends, you know, back then. They would sneak me in their house, or, you know, they'd feed their mom with some drag while I was there, or something like that, and, you know, bounced around from a couple of friends' houses for a while, and then, you know, I would, like, steal from stores, or, you know, not like it's a good thing or I'm proud of it or boasting about it, but then, like, at that age, I would, like, kind of target, you know, vulnerable people that are, like, less likely to fight back and take, like, the lunch money and stuff, until I caught a armed robbery charge over that, you know. And then in the juvenile, I met a couple of people, and they introduced, you know, selling drugs to me, and that's kind of grew, like, a fondness for it.
Interesting. Well, my guess is, I can imagine if anyone was out on the street trying to survive at 13, you do whatever you do to survive. And if that's stealing, then that's stealing. It's just like, it's almost like to me, it seems like an instinct. Just like, I gotta survive. I gotta eat. I gotta, like, do these things that maybe I don't really want to do, but I have to survive, just to live.
Yeah.
Is my guess.
It was, well, especially for me, it was really hard because, you know, I've had a lot of, like, I was vulnerable to, like, creeps. You know, like, guys wanted to try to, like, pimp me out, or, you know, like, you know, take advantage of me, and, you know, especially since, you know, being so young, I was so naive, you know, and I really didn't realize to the extent of what the streets were really like. I just kind of, like, you know, learned along the way, you know.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I went through a lot of fucked up shit, you know, behind it, but, you know, like, I made it a point, like, I prided myself that I didn't use my body or let somebody use my body to try to get ahead in life, or to get what I needed, you know, or a place to stay, or, like, I just refused, you know. I wanted to be able to make a name for myself outside of what, like, out of, my looks or my body, like, I wanted to find some place in life where I can be treated like, with some kind of respect or, equality.
Yeah, it's what we all want, right? Yeah. Yeah, there's something to be proud of. I can hear it, that you're like glad and proud that you kind of held to that value system for you.
Yeah, because a lot of like girls in my, around my age, or, like from my time of, coming up and stuff, like, wasn't very many females that didn't like just say fuck it and just start hoeing, like it was easy for them,
Right.
what I'm saying? It's easy to con a guy out of some money, or trying to like skin and grin in their face and, take whatever they could, like it's easier that way than to have to like, try to keep up with like a bunch of grown men in, their field of work,
Yeah.
But I was determined.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you were 13 when you got put out on the streets. Well, how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking? How long have you been on the streets, or in and out, or?
Oh,
I'm
36 now.
Okay, so it's been a little while.
Yeah.
It's a good. Wow. Well, what part of Seattle was this happening?
So I'm from the South End, Rainier Valley.
Okay.
I hung out in the Central District a lot with my god sister, my sister, but I, kind of like came up and made a name for myself downtown. So.
What does that mean, made a name for yourself? That's kind of like more of your community?
Well,
downtown?
that's where I, made my money, and like, people started to notice me, and I like started to come into my own, and, like find my place.
Gotcha. Gotcha. A couple of different questions. You mentioned you had a baby at a young age.
Yeah.
Are you in contact with that person?
So, yeah, I am. It's a little difficult with my son though, because my son's a rape baby, so that was already hard. Just having to, come to the conclusion that I'm, underage, having this baby, like not really how I wanted to have a child, or the situation, and then just everything that I had to deal with behind it. But my son has always been a blessing, that's my junior, like my pride and joy, like nothing else in life did I feel like I did any good at, or made any like, anything that was like, to be proud of, or, that was good, but my son is everything that, I'm saying.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I got two little girls, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, he's the one thing that I feel like was the only thing good that I've done in my life, and even though the life that I kind of grew up in, and the way that I was growing up in, the life that I decided to continue to live, I never wanted him to ever experience that. I never wanted him to live like that. I never wanted him to have to, feel like that was something that he had to be a part of, or even wanted to be a part of.
Right,
So, it was hard to keep him from it, but, I did, My son's such a square, but he thinks he's just so hip, and it's too funny, but he's a little comedian.
Yeah. Well, how old is he, like in his 20s?
So my son is 18.
Okay, 18, yeah.
Yes, and he's always been this little jokester, like I always tell everybody, I even tell him how when he was 2 years old, like his favorite show was Yo Mama. Like, And it used to trip me out. I'm like, what 2-year-old watches Yo Mama? Like, shouldn't you be watching like the Mickey Mouse Club or some shit like that? But no, he loved that damn Yo Mama show. So he just always thought he was just funny.
Well, so this is kind of maybe more kind of practical question, I guess. When you had him when, how old were you?
So I had him 15 days after my 17th birthday.
Okay, so you're just turned 17. You living on the streets, or where are you at?
So at that time, I had been so entwined with crime and committing crimes that the juvenile pretty much raised me. You know, I was in and out of the juvenile all the time.
Yeah, right.
And so I was in the juvenile at that time.
Gotcha.
For a case that I had caught, but it kind of worked out to where they let me out to have my son, but I didn't really comply too well, like, you know, so I ended up right back in there right after I had him.
Gotcha.
So while I was out, you know, being that I was pregnant after I had my son, yeah, my mom kind of like let me be at the house in a way, but then there was a lot of times that she would push me out or have me arrested, or I'd be locked out. Like my oldest brother, like used to do like the most evilest shit and used to like, you know, pick on me, make me mad, cause a fight with me, and, you know, have me, the police come get me or lock me out of the house, but keep my son. Like they always tried to keep my son from me.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like been since the day that he was born. Like right after I had an emergency C-section because I couldn't dilate, and I remember when I first woke up having to fight with my mom just to hold my son for the first time.
Wow.
Like,
so it's just immediately like using your son as a power play almost.
Kind of that, yes, but then also my son looked like an identical version of my second oldest brother, which I feel like is my mom's one of her favorite sons. You know, like he's spoiled, whatever. She doesn't fight with him or argue with him, just lets him kind of do whatever, you know. And so I feel like she was trying to get a second chance at, you know,
Gotcha.
raising her kids right through my son, you know.
I see what you're saying. Gotcha.
Yeah, so she pretty much was trying to take my son from me, which she ended up successfully doing when he was 9.
Oh wow, like legally?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, it sucked. So like it made things hard between me and my son's relationship. It's hard for us to actually have a real bond in a relationship anymore, because when they did take him from me, they adopted him out to my mom, all on unfounded allegations. Like that should have never even been a case in the first place. But unfortunately, Washington State CPS does whatever the fuck they want. And when she did that, she put a restraining order on me. So I didn't get to see or speak to my son for 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when he was 9, it's kind of like you stopped seeing him.
Yeah,
until he was 18.
Until he was 18.
And he was like illegally an adult. I could not imagine. I'm sorry. My daughter's 9, and if like someone was like, you can't see her, that would crush me. It'd kill me.
Yeah, like nothing in life could ever break me. Like I was so stubborn and strong-willed and, you know, headstrong. Like I didn't care what I went through in life. Like I was always gonna make a way. I was gonna, you know, be okay wherever I go. Like no matter what I do, I'm gonna find a way to make, you know, myself, you know, come out on top, or, you know, if not on top, like I'm gonna make you feel like I am, you know.
Where does that come from? Not everybody has that, and like you're put out on the street at 13. It's like, yeah, where does that come from?
I don't know.
Just to like, I'm gonna kick ass.
Like it's almost like from feelings like after a while, it came to, I don't remember quite when in life it like kind of hit me, but sometime in life I just got tired of crying and feeling like, you know,
A victim.
well, like feeling like, you know, poor pity me, you know, and instead of me like being emotionally like a crybaby, like when I would get emotional, I got angry. Like I just started getting upset because now you're making me sad, and I don't like to be sad because then people look at me like I'm weak. And so I guess it all came from like, you know, me being like having a big fuck you, you know, like I don't care what you guys do, you're not gonna break me. Like, but taking my son broke me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that was the only thing to break me.
Yeah. That makes sense, right? And so tell me, after 9 years, how do you get in contact with your son? What was that like?
It's been hard. It's been hard because I know my son loves me, and it bothers me that my son doesn't know how much I love him. I'm sure he knows that, he has a feeling like, I know my mom loves me, but he doesn't really know like what he means to me, you know, and we don't have the bond or the relationship that we once had. Like, it's hard for us to link up and really get engaged with each other, or, you know, have something to talk about, especially when I know there's so much that he wants to know about, or that he wants to lash out and be angry about, or tell me how he felt about having to grow up the way that he did.
Right.
You know, I know that's there, and I'm waiting for it to happen, but my son's got he's such a sweetheart that I feel like he doesn't, because he's worried that he's gonna hurt my feelings.
It's like keeps it in. Well, I mean, the good news is I see that he's 18. You guys got time to repair that relationship and have lots of talks, right? And lots of conversations, because I don't think it's going to be one conversation, everything's healed up. It's like, that's the good news. It's like you guys have time to repair and do, you know, months and years of conversations.
I mean, yeah, that's, you know, we can always build a relationship, but I'll never have my son like I had him. I'll never have that bond with him like we had.
Yeah.
There's never gonna be that connection that should have been there, as, you know, mother and child.
Yeah, that's something to grieve.
Yeah,
that's
you
gone,
know,
right?
that was, you know, taken from me. You know, like being, I was robbed and taken, you know, the best thing in life, you know, like the greatest blessing that anybody can ever have, like the one thing that, you know, to live for, and that was my kid, you know, like I wasn't able to be a mom, like, you know, first time parents aren't perfect, and then being an underage parent, like I was by far from, you know, being perfect, but I was, you know, they stole my opportunity of actually having that experience.
Yeah, that is rough. Yeah, that, to me, is unimaginable. I'd be like, well, tell me about where you're at now. You're in Ballard, right?
Yeah.
What's going on with you?
So, you know, after my son, you know, being taken, like, it's, life just went all the way to shit from there. Because at that point, like, you know, I was a broken person now. Like, now I'm vulnerable. And everything that could go wrong went wrong in my life. And then, you know, things got so bad to a point where I started to use heavy drugs. Like, I gave up on life. At a point in time, I gave up on life and I started shooting up heroin. And didn't care who knew, didn't care who seen. Like, I wanted everybody to know and see, almost to see who cared enough to try to help me.
Almost as a cry for help.
Yeah, but...
And to just cope with the pain?
Well, I mean, I guess cope with it, but I was really using heroin to try to, like, as an easy way to kill myself, you know, like,
I see.
you know, I'm too pussy to fucking, or like, cut myself, you know, because that shit hurts, you know, or, you know, I wasn't brave enough to, like, you know, shoot myself or, you know, like, so I just felt like, oh, okay, well, let me just go to sleep high and never wake up. But God was like, yeah, well, I got another plan for you, you know, and instead I just had a fucked up habit, you know. So now I'm trying to find myself again and trying to find the will to want to do better and to want to live.
Yeah. Good. Dee, is there something that you'd want to say to the people of Seattle?
You know, Seattle has always been my home. Like, when I'm away from Seattle, I get homesick because I miss it. Because, I mean, there's no place like it. It's just so beautiful here. But the people of Seattle are so, like, low-key evil. Like, I hate it when I'm here because of how people are and how they treat each other and how everything is, like, you know, so depressing. You know, like, people are better than, feel like they're, you know, better than this person or they're better than that person, and, you know, like, they can play God and who deserves to be treated one way or another, or, you know, like, looked at, like, you know, it's like us homeless people get looked at like we're nothing, you know, not knowing, like, a lot of the people that I've met on the streets are, like, so fucking smart or talented, and, you know, we just been through some shit and it doesn't matter, you know. Like, I just wish that there was more hospitality, more care, you know, kind of figure out who people are before you write them off.
That's right. Yeah, totally.
Like, that's about it, you know. I wish Seattle's people would be just as beautiful as Seattle is.
I love that. Thanks so much for your time. Anything else you want to say?
No.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. You open for a hug?
No problem. Thanks.
Oh, thanks, V. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, that is some hard stuff. I hope, again, you and your son